Welcome back to Bitachon Unplugged. Today we're with Yoel Jacobson. Yoel is a dear friend of mine. And what I want to say about Yoel before we give Yoel the opportunity to introduce himself is very rarely do I have the opportunity to talk to someone in the world of Bitachon who doesn't just know what he's talking about, but actually knows to source what it is that he's saying. And it's very refreshing to talk to Yoel when I have all these questions and just all these conversations that we've had on the topic of Bitachon, and actually leaving there saying it doesn't sound like someone just projected, but it actually sounds like someone understood what I said and actually gave me the answers based on actual sources and understandings. So I'm very excited for this conversation, but without further ado, here's Yoel. Yoel, you mind giving us a little bit of a rundown of who you are and what you spend your time doing?
Hello. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very excited to have this conversation on two levels. A, personally, with you, and B, professionally, to have a nice, fun conversation about Bitachon, and hopefully we'll make it good and productive. Yes, so over the last about 13 years, I've gotten to know Rabbi Shaya Cohen. He lives in Far Rockaway as a yeshiva in Beis called Zichron Aryeh. He's in his mid-80s right now, and one of the things that I was zochet to get really, really close with him. I don't even know how, probably because my mother davened, but I was zochet to get very close with him. And I became a talmid. I was in his yeshiva. I was in his kollel for a bunch of years. And he is very, 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 very passionate about emunah and bitachon. And he really, really, really excels in bitachon. And he's also very, very passionate about learning. And when you put the combination of someone that is, and when I say like he's like from the biggest, I mean like from the biggest. He's like from the biggest in learning, from the biggest in bitachon, and being in his shadows was an insane experience. Seeing someone on that level, and I was okay to be very close with him for many, many years. Over the last couple of years, since I got married about 7 years ago, close approaching 7 years ago. Obviously, once you get married and you have your own stuff, then bitachon becomes even more of a thing. So I got very passionate about bitachon myself. And I learned a lot from Rabbi Cohen. And I really started studying the topic myself. And then recently, which is a crazy story, maybe we'll speak about it during the podcast a little bit. But long story short, I ended up with a team. I ended up teaming up with two other guys that were previous Talmidim of Rabbi Cohen's. And we teamed up to start this organization called Bitchubo, and to get it off the ground. And what we do is provide a lot of bitachon content. We're just getting started, but we have events that we make, which everyone was shocked. We make big events about bitachon, and it's just celebrating bitachon. We have a shiur with Ian. And the reason why I'm saying the shiur with Ian is because one of the very, 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 large focal points of our organization and our education style is to keep it very, very, very source-based. We're not looking to share our own thoughts, even though we all have them. Anyone that's into any topic has their own thoughts. We're trying to keep it very, very source-based, and we're trying to make sense and give people a framework and make sense of the nuances and the vast, it's huge. It's a huge topic, bitachon. There's so many details and so many nuances, so we're really trying to create a framework for people. So we have these events that we do, but ultimately we also have a workshop that we're finishing up now. We're in the last touches, and the workshop is about 10 classes. And it's to give like an overview of just putting a framework of all the elements of bitachon. What is bitachon? And hishtadlus and bitachon. And if you're going to get what you want, you're not going to get what you want. You accept what Hashem did. You don't accept what Hashem. Why do I need to do hishtadlus if it is going to happen anyway? And how does davening come in? And there are so many different things. What about if I have sins and Hashem wants to punish me? Like there are so many things that come into the topic. And it creates a lot of confusion. And because of the confusion, people steer away from even just committing to indulge in the topic. And so our goal is really to create a framework that will create some clarity and separate the topics. And then from there, we're also going to offer different programs for learning bitachon daily and going through the big svarim. But even if not, at least you'll have a framework to then go ahead and do it on your own, and you'll be able to like compartmentalize and make some sense out of the details that you're going to see scattered all over the many, many, many svarim to talk about it.
So I love that because there's a lot of what I want to ask right now. I have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with a very simple, but probably the most loaded question. And I don't even know if we'll get to the answer, but I hope we do. What is bitachon?
Okay, very good. I'm going to ask you a question before I answer. Do you want me to give you part by part and we'll dissect part by part? Or do you want me to go on a little rant of like a total overview?
Okay, so this is great. I think that we should split it up into two steps also. I think that maybe let's discuss the levels of bitachon. What is bitachon practically? Like there's different stages and that people are holding at different levels. So I think that just breaking that down so we can understand where we're holding as individuals whenever we're going through something and just in general. And then I think actually breaking down the science of what's going on behind the scenes. I know on a previous podcast that we had, a question that was asked was, is bitachon a tool irrelevant to the fact of anything? It's just like another tool God gave us? Or is there actually a relationship within it and more to it than just the fact that Hashem gave us this tool called bitachon and now we have to learn how to implement it in our lives, just like he gave us the tool of knowing how to build something and just happens to be a tool? I thought it was a very interesting question because what is bitachon, right?
So let's try to break
Slow it down.
What I'm gonna do is like this. Addressing the tool, I want to address that later because the tool question, I'm familiar with what you're talking about. I think you're referring to the podcast you did with Yehuda Race.
Yeah.
But you're saying like, is that a holy thing to do to, want to watch and get a watch?
Yeah.
I thought it was a phenomenal question. And I do think I have an answer, but I don't want to approach it yet.
Okay, perfect. So tell us where you want to start.
Why? And I'll tell you why. Before we start getting into what bitachon is, this touches on the whole question that becomes a very big controversial question of, could you get what you want? Are you guaranteed to get what you want? Is it just maybe you'll get what you want? Are you more likely to get what you want? Is it that there's absolutely zero, obligation from Hashem to do anything? You just accept whatever Hashem does and you take it and you learn to just accept it and accept it with love, which we see a lot of.
Yeah.
And the reason why I want to take a step back from this question is because this question is a very nuanced, large question, but it's only a component of bitachon. And I don't want to get lost in this question and therefore lose so much benefit that we could get from understanding bitachon outside of this question just because we get confused about this topic. So I want to address this question and I definitely want to get into it. But I want to preface with understanding that this is part of one compartment of the components of bitachon. This is within one component of bitachon. And let me tell you what I mean. It's very difficult to take a huge topic and make it very simple. So what I'm going to say now may seem very oversimplified, but I actually worked very, 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 very hard to simplify it down to the components that I'm going to tell you now. But I want to give a little overview of the components of bitachon. And I'm going to use a mashal. And the mashal that I'm going to go with is a tree. You have the soil. If you want to plant a tree, if you want to have a tree, you need to have soil. And you need a seed, but let's say you have a seed. You want to take the seed, you have a seed, and then you want to have a tree. You need soil. If you don't have soil, there's nothing to talk about. The goal of the tree or the manifestation of a proper tree will be a fruit. The apple will be there, and then you'll cut off the apple. And then you have the actual tree. So I'm going to separate these three parts of bitachon. There's the soil, and the reason why I use the word soil is because the word that's found in two different Sfarim, Rabbi Avram ben Harambam wrote a sefer called Hamaspik L'Ovdei Hashem, and it's a great sefer. I mean, I'm saying it's a great sefer. It's the Rambam's son, and he has like a pretty long essay over there on bitachon. And he opens up the essence of bitachon. He opens up and he uses the word ikar. The Chavos Halvavos, in another element, also uses the word ikar. I'm using the word ikar as soil. Why? Because the Sefer HaIkarim, which was written by Rav Yosef Elbo a little later on, but he describes that the word ikar, what it means is something that without it, the thing can't exist. It's not part of the thing, but it's something that needs to be there in order for the thing to exist. So for example, the soil is not part of the tree, but without the soil, there can't be a tree. So the soil that you need in order to plant a tree of bitachon is emunah. Very, very loosely and largely categorized into two categories, could be two parts of emunah. A, the fact that Hashem is absolutely and exclusively in control of every single thing that happens in the world at large and in your personal life. He's only him, there's nothing else, everything Everything is decided and executed only by Hashem. That's part A of Emunah, of the soil. The second part, and this the Chavos HaLevavos brings, which I think is a very underrated piece. For a while I was wondering why he brings it there, but he says, I think his wording is something along the lines of "V'haikar asher ba'avuro imi paked lo yimatzeh bitachon," something like that. But he says that without this, there will not v'haikar. He uses the word ikar. That without it, you can't have bitachon. This is that you have to know that Hashem is going to pull through because of kindness and generosity, even to those who are undeserving.
So this is regarding the soil. When it comes to Emunah, it splits into two. One is the understanding that you are the macro and the micro of God's view, and it's all full of love. Or the second part is that it's all full of love, and that Hashem cares and He wants it to be
it's
good.
Hashem. It's only Hashem.
Yeah, sorry, it's only Hashem. And the second part is that He cares about you on a global level and on a personal level.
That I would say might be part even of the first one, but I would say that his character is acting out of kindness and generosity, not out of deserving. The fact that you have an elbow is because Hashem decided to give you an elbow to be useful to you.
Yeah.
When you were born, you never did anything to deserve anything.
Yeah.
Right?
It's out of Hashem's kindness.
You have an elbow. He wants you to be able to function. You want to drive. You want to move around. You want to lift, and you want to drink. You need an elbow. So Hashem gave you an elbow. By the way, there are people that don't have elbows.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's really hard. So everything that Hashem does is out of generosity and kindness. Now, the reason why I want to stress this, and I want to talk about this more as we go on in the conversation, but the reason why I want to stress this is because this is, I think, the part of Emunah that people get more confused with and people less know about. A lot of us kind of know inside, if you push us against the wall, it's like, okay, who really is in charge? Hashem's in charge. A lot of us really do believe that. But when it comes to Hashem's character, that's where things start getting very iffy with a lot of people. People have all kinds of, misunderstood ideas about Hashem, whether it's through educators that educated them with an approach that was not proper, or whether it was their parents, or whether they just had their own experience of always being scared of people and they just project it onto Hashem, or whether it's in certain cases, and this is a much larger topic, and I hope to not address this much, but also certain people, their own lives just make it very, very, very difficult for them to see Hashem's character, in the light that it officially should be seen. But Hashem's character, the Chavos HaLevavos is saying, without it, bitachon cannot exist. There's a very famous part of the Chavos HaLevavos, the 7 qualities that's needed in order to properly place trust. Those 7 qualities are loosely these 2 things. It's Hashem's absolute and exclusive control over everything and over you. And it's His character. And he breaks it down and he gives different elements of Hashem's character and different elements of the type of control. But those are really the 2 things. So the active ingredients in the soil in order to plant bitachon are these 2 active ingredients. And they're both elements of Emunah. There's Emunah of Hashem's existence and His power and His active control and generosity. Active, big word. Active control and generosity. Those are the 2 components that are in the soil of Emunah. Of bitachon. Those are the
Emunah
active
of
ingredients in the soil of Emunah, which we can now plant bitachon.
Okay. So we've established the groundwork.
We've established that. Now, what's the fruit of bitachon? The fruit of bitachon, ideally, the ideal fruit of bitachon, the ideal manifestation of how bitachon will feel, and you'll know that you are doing bitachon properly. We're going to get to the doing of it in a second. The ultimate fruit is a complete sense of calm and okayness, and being totally void of any concerns and any worries about any outcome in the matters of this world. What I'm describing here is not something that probably anyone is ever going to get to. But the ideal manifestation of bitachon will be a complete sense of calm and complete disregard of any concern or any worry or any fear or anxiety of anything in the world, because you're just so living in the reality of Hashem's control and Hashem's goodness, and the only thing that you want to occupy your brain with is, how do I fit myself into what He wants from me? And that's the only thing that you should be busy with.
I will say, I know that you were saying that that's not a level that we can get to. I believe that it's not a level that we can get to consistently. I think it's a level we can get to in pockets in life. Like, there's moments that we go through such hardship, and then, like, I know for myself, there was times where I was so tapped in that it was like crazy, but it didn't last for long. It was like I could say it happened in this scenario and at that time, and it lasted me for this amount of time. But I don't know if I didn't have it at all. I also don't know if I had it fully. I just feel like I had it a lot more. But the reason I'm bringing this up is not to disagree with what you're saying. It's to emphasize the fact that you're not at 100 doesn't mean that 70 or 50 or 40 is not a great place to be at. That allows us also to experience that level of bitachon to a certain extent in our lives that allows things to actually work out in a better manner for ourselves and for what's happening. That was like...
So by the way, 100%. I think you're saying two separate points. I think you're saying A, that bitachon in general is a spectrum.
Yes.
And B, even individually, we will vary in that spectrum. Meaning not just that bitachon is a spectrum and everyone is where they are on the spectrum.
So we're like this in the spectrum. We're waves.
Right. You
we're
could
very
be going
fluid.
right. Exactly. You could be 100%. Those are true, and that's the closing of this tree mashal. By the way, so it's funny. You.
I jumped the gun.
You messed me up. You took my punchline. But this is actually a huge aside that the Chazon Ish brings out, which is so important to talk about, and the Chazon Ish is so beautiful.
Before we get to the Chazon Ish, I want to backtrack though for a second because we're talking about the tree. We were talking about what is
even get to the
bitachon.
tree.
So let's go to the tree. Okay, let's continue. Go to the tree.
This is what bitachon is. Now the tree is bitachon. And why am I calling the tree bitachon? Because the tree is what connects the nourishing factor of the soil to the result of a fruit. The tree is the in-between of you have the soil, you have the fruit, and you need something to get you
The tree's the cleave.
from soil to fruit. So the tree is the exercise of bitachon. The tree is the act of bitachon. What does bitachon mean? What does it mean that I am a person who has bitachon? What does it mean that I am a person? How do I act on working on my bitachon? What is actual bitachon, right? It's like, what's okay, fine, so you're going to be calm. Hashem is real, but like, what's the bitachon process?
Go for it. I was just going to say, I love the fact that you split up the analogy of bitachon into 3 steps and not into 2. Because a lot of the times we go, it's emunah, and then it's bitachon. But it's like, wait, no, there's emunah, there's bitachon, and then there's a vessel in between that's helping connect the 2. Now let's focus on that for a second. And that's the component that we have to put in the work and actually not brush over and say that it's bitachon. Because that's how a lot of people tend to get like, I don't know how to do this bitachon. Like, you know?
And I would go on your point even a little further. I think it's even slightly inaccurate. I don't think that peace of mind is bitachon.
Okay.
I think that bitachon is learning to create that peace of mind. I think that the act of bitachon is not an act of peace of mind. An act of bitachon is learning to trust, and it will result in a peace of mind. And if you are able to trust, then a manifestation of that will be that you'll feel calm. But bitachon itself is the muscle of learning how to trust.
It's like saying when you go to the gym, lifting the weights will result in having a bigger muscle. But the lifting weights
is not the muscle.
Is not the muscle.
Right.
But the result is the ikr of what you're doing at the gym. If not, you wouldn't be at the gym to begin with.
Right.
But that lift is actually the result.
Right.
But that's the ikr.
Right. Working out will get you muscles, but working out muscles isn't working out.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. I love that.
So I think that learning how to trust will lead you to feel calm, and that's how you'll know that you're doing a good job. And that's also the purpose of it, a purpose of it. There's a lot of purposes of it. It does a lot of good, bitachon, but one purpose of it is that it gets you to a place of peace of mind. The Chavrusa always emphasizes that he says that this is the most important component to serving Hashem.
Bitachon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why? And he explains why. And one of the first things he brings is because it will free your mind to now be available to serve God. If you're anxious and stressed out about a million different things, you don't have time and effort and mental and emotional availability and capacity to devote yourself fully, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, technically, financially, everything. You should be devoting yourself completely to, I just want to fit into your awesomeness. But you can't do that if you don't learn how to let go. So the bitachon is actually an extremely necessary component to free up space to serve Hashem with our brains, to serve Hashem with our hearts, to serve Hashem with all of us. Not just and this is sounds like a controversial thing to say, but if you learn Chavos Alvavos, not just Shara Bitachon, the whole Chavos Alvavos, it's not controversial at all. Most of Avodas Hashem is in the brain. Yeah, it's in the mind. The whole book of Chavos Alvavos is all about how you should think. And there are a lot of actions. And if you're not going to have the mind, at least do the actions. Do halacha. It's like someone that goes and davens and doesn't say and has no thought what he's doing. We could all understand that that's not the same thing. What's halachically proper, what's not, I don't know. But we could all understand that it's just not the same thing as someone that goes and is actually thinking, believing, and meaning everything he's saying.
Yeah.
It's a whole different experience. Forget about if Hashem's going to respond or not, but that's a whole different experience of what you're doing. You're nourishing yourself.
Yeah.
So the avodas Hashem should be very, very, very much, focused on our brains and what we're thinking about. And Bitachon really frees up the space to allow us to do that. And it's like, okay, what do you want me to think about? Because I don't have to stress out about.
What would be the muscle needed to take you from the soil and bring out the fruit? Like, how do you become the tree?
Very good. So what's the tree? The tree is a process inside that goes from, that it's the muscle of learning to rely on what you know. You have to know it. So by the way, emunah is a very underrated piece of bitachon, because your bitachon is only going to be as strong as your emunah. If you're not sure that Hashem is real and that Hashem is good and that Hashem is going to be there for you, then it would make no sense to fully let go and trust. And I'm going to go in a minute into the mashal, actually also from Yehuda Reis, which, by the way, I just want to give a little shout out to Yehuda Reis. I'm assuming he doesn't mind me saying his name because he was on the podcast. So
it was a great podcast.
It was shout out to him. The podcast was great. I really liked a lot of the points and his honesty and the points that he was saying. I thought it was a great podcast. But also outside of the podcast, I don't know him, but I do have a lot of friends that we both know that really gained a lot from him. So I don't really know him very much, but I do have a lot of respect for him. Shout out to him. A lot of people that were actually very influential on me were very influenced by him. Wow. So I do have a lot of respect for him. I would love to meet him, but one of the points that he mentioned, I think he was saying with his daughter that asked him maybe what bitachon is, and he was talking about the trust fall. I think the trust fall is a very good mashal, and we'll get back into it in a second. But the exercise of bitachon is learning to take what you know and learning to rely on that, so much so that you do the act, or not even in the trust fall, you're doing an act, but even without an act, you learn to rely on that enough that you're able to start exercising the process of replacing fear and anxiety and pessimism to any extent with confidence and hope and optimism, and learning to replace that with that based on that which you know, and learning to rely on it and internally feel that it might not be the worst, right? The Chazon Ish, again, in this spectrum thing that he brings bitachon all the way down, because you look at the greats, you see like what we're saying, menuchas hanevesh, complete peace, like peace of mind, that like you're never concerned about anything ever. And then you have the people that are talked about, which we'll get into also, like the people that were confident 100% they're going to go do exactly, they knew exactly what's going to happen, Hashem's going to pull through and Hashem pulls through. You hear these things, it's like, dude, I don't know what you want from me. Like I'm trying to live my life, I have so much stuff going on, like there's a million things going on, like that's never happening for me. I'm nowhere near what you're describing. I'm like pretty much 24/7 anxious, I'm pretty much 24/7 scared, and the second I'm not, something comes up, so now I am. And my wife got into a car accident, and my kid's going to the doctor, and in the meantime, I have no idea how I'm paying my rent. Like, there's a million things that could come up, and to start being like complete, like I'm not concerned about anything. I am concerned. My knee hurts. I want it to feel better. I'm going to the doctor. Like, of course we're concerned. So the bar, when you look at the Rishonim and the Chazals, the bar is very high. The Chazon Ish really lowers the bar, and he gives us an entry level. On the entry level, he says, even if you're scared, and even if you're considering that the worst will happen, but once you're able to take what you know and say, okay, I know that it's all Hashem, I know that it's all up to Hashem, he even strips away the factor of like the goodness and the kindness. I'm not sure why he doesn't bring that in, but he says that I know there's nothing that could stand in the way of Hashem, and at the very least I know that nothing else is going to harm me, right? The doctor, the lawyer, the insurance company, the lawsuit, my boss, I'm in a negotiation, the client that I'm trying to get, whatever it might be, they don't have any power to influence anything about my life at all. At all. When you start telling that to yourself in a situation, even if it's in a scary situation, and even if you're accepting the worst, but you transition that the worst is coming from Hashem, potentially, not coming from the lawyer, not coming from the doctor, not coming from whoever it is that you're facing, whatever intimidating force that you're facing. They have zero, they have nothing, they're nothing, they're nothing, they have nothing. The $1 billion company that's suing you, they have zero influence over Hashem's ability to do exactly what he wants to do for you. Also, it's good and he's kind, but even taking that out, just who's the one deciding your fate? Only Hashem. If you bring that in, if you bring that to the forefront of your brain and you start trying to live consciously with that, that already alleviates an element of fear. And it gives you, okay, at least I could hope. And the way he says it is so beautiful. He says, when the roots of one's emunah gives him the courage to believe in the possibility of being saved, that is the midah bitachon. So when you're able to go to your soil and nourish,
trust it,
and trust and nourish the feeling of trusting that it's him, and then from there you build. It's him, he's good, he will pull through, he could pull through, he will pull through, and then you start getting into all kinds of different levels and into the relationship. But at the very least, just the conscious, being conscious of the reality that it's only Hashem, the en ma'atzor le'oshia, like there's nothing that could stop Hashem. There's no one making any decision. There's no one executing anything. Zero. How your pinky
question.
is going to feel. Zero.
I think that what you're saying is actually, it's profound on many levels because we're talking about bitachon, but I think that going after the Chazon Ish's approach off the bat, I think is actually a very interesting approach. And I love that because what I find is a lot of people actually misquote the Chazon Ish and they tend to take the Chazon Ish and use it as a fuel to a fire of that actually we can't, nothing's in our control. The Chazon Ish says, the only thing you can do is the best you can do and everything else is in Hashem's hands. And then they go and say, but all the other people say this way and all the other Rabbanim say that. But everybody seems to gravitate towards the Chazon Ish as like saying, what everybody's saying, the Chazon Ish bashes, it's not true. And they sort of stick with the Chazon Ish. And I'm not saying this to bash anybody or the Chazon Ish or anybody. I know that they're misquoting the Chazon Ish and I know that you know they're misquoting the Chazon Ish. So I wanted to take like a little bit of a deeper dive over there because I don't think that a lot of people are going to be able to, just open up the Chazon Ish and understand what he's saying. And hopefully people on the podcast, because I know people who've listened have asked about this a lot of in many different settings. And I think going down that route for a second of addressing what's bitachon according to the Paiskim, what's to the Paiskim that say X, and what the Chazon Ish says on Y, and really bridging the whole thing together.
Okay, I'm down to break down the Chazon Ish a little bit. I'm definitely down to do it. It's a little bit of an intimidating task because I want to do it justice. The other thing that I want to preface with just quickly is that I don't understand it, but there are certain people that I do respect that did learn the Chazon Ish different than me. So I'm going to give a little bit of the benefit of the doubt to people that I have major respect for and that have done a lot of very chashuv work and they're way greater and more knowledgeable than me. Although there are also a lot of great people that do learn it how I'm learning it. So I have what to lean on. So I also feel that it's very misunderstood. But I'm going to separate the Chazon Ish into a few things. By the way, it was the Chazon Ish that gave this idea of spectrum, that brought it down. Which, by the way, just to conclude the tree mashal, the whole spectrum comes in the fact that bitachon is not a tree because bitachon is not physical. Bitachon is a character trait. Character traits are not physical. Physical things, you have it or you don't have it. Here's a bottle of water. I have a bottle of water. I don't have a bottle of water. It's yes or it's no. When it comes to midos, literally the word is a midah. It means an amount. But when it comes to midos, there's almost no such thing as having it or not having it. Almost every single regular person has within them every single character trait. You have within you some anger, you have some kindness, you have generosity, you have love, you have hatred. You have,
things fluctuate.
You have all kinds of feelings, exactly. And they fluctuate inside you, but you have an element of all of them. So are you a kind person? The answer is yes, because you're not void of kindness. Are you only a kind person? No, probably not, right? How kind are you? Okay, to each their own. And even within our own, it varies. But bitachon is a character trait, so it's important to realize. Like, I just want to close off that analogy with bitachon is not a tree. So it's not like, okay, you have a tree in your garden or you don't have a tree in your garden. Like, no, bitachon, you get small, you get little fruits, you get some stuff, you'll figure it out. And okay, we'll get back more into the foundations.
So I like what you're saying, just on the analogy. You are a tree, but don't get lost in the tree. In the sense where, like, the tree is a great analogy to explain the transition between all the three phases. Right. But really don't focus on the tree, because the tree is either there or not there. With bitachon, it's not either there or not there. It's always there. The question is, where are you holding on that tree? Right. Okay. I want to make sure I understood. And
by the way, I want to close off because I feel like there's an element that could introduce some clarity, working off of Yehuda Reis's mashal with the trust fall, and then I'll come back
to explain the trust fall. Yehuda Reis was saying, for those that didn't hear the episode, Yehuda Reis was saying that he was speaking to his daughter about what is bitachon, and they were walking and they were talking about emunah, if I remember correctly, and then his daughter was asking, what is bitachon? And he goes, okay. The trust fall, I'm going to stand behind you. Are you going to fall backwards? So his daughter said, yeah. And then he asked her why. And she said, because I know that you'll catch me. You're there. So he goes, exactly. That's how it's supposed to be with Hashem. So that was the mashal of the trust fall. And now, turning it back to you on what you were saying.
So first of all, I thought that it was a great mashal because it's so simple and so relatable and yet so deep. And there's so much in it. But I think the trust fall really brings out these three nakudas very well. In order for me to fall, if you're behind me, in order for me to fall, and for sure to feel calm falling, but even just to fall, again, it boils down to the soil of the emunah. I have to know that A, you're able, you're in control, you're capable. If you're 3 years old, if my 3-year-old son tells me that he's going to catch me, and he's fully intending to catch me, I love him. And I'll do a joke, but I'm not falling down. Definitely not.
You don't trust it.
Because we're both going to get smashed on the floor. So I'm not falling down. So you have to know that he's capable. That's Hashem's control. He's the one, he's in control. The second thing you have to know is your character. If you're the kind of guy that likes doing stupid jokes and you don't care that I get hurt, then I'm not going to be very calm and I'm not going to fall. Yeah. But if you're the kind of guy that would never hurt a fly, and everyone knows like Mati is like, he's the nicest guy in the world. He can't stand seeing people not okay. So now I know that you're able and you're willing. Those are the components I need to have
to fall
in order to fall. And even if I decide to be silly and fall without those components, I'm definitely not going to be calm. I'm going to expect to get hurt, right? Which I may do anyway.
Yeah.
So that's the components. The bitachon part of it, though, and this is a little bit of a chiddush that I want to make in the trust fall. The bitachon part of it is not the act of falling. The bitachon part of it is the act of learning to fall and not be scared. I could take a chance. I could not have bitachon. I could have a little bit of a level of bitachon that I'm willing to risk it. Right? Like a scary business deal. Like, do you really trust it? I don't know. I think it's worth it. And I'm willing to potentially lose. Right?
It's funny you're saying that because when my whole journey of bitachon started with my brother getting sick. That's when we started learning. But I remember I was sitting in the airport on the way to the States when he was getting treatment, and I was speaking to him on the phone. And at the time, we were exposed to all these Hasidic businessmen who were making crazy moves. And I go, I'm like, what am I missing here? What are they doing? What am I missing? And we both look at each other and we go, I think they have bitachon. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if they did or didn't at the time, but at the time I was like, these guys are doing things that are above everything. I was like, that's bitachon. Then it clicked for me of like the action of bitachon, of actually doing something with complete confidence that it's going to be okay. Now, again, to go into if it was or wasn't is a whole different conversation, but that was the light bulb moment for me.
Right, it's acting with bitachon. Rather, there's an important distinction to make because someone that acts with irresponsibility will look very similar to someone that acts with bitachon.
This is a big thing that's brought down about the reason why bitachon is taught that it's more passive than active. I mean, the Beis Halevi touches on it and says, if I remember correctly, maybe it's in the footnotes of the Beis Halevi, that the reason we don't teach people that really like things can change through knowing bitachon is because people are going to believe in their ego and not in Hashem, which will cause the downfall of everything. And because of that, we're too nervous about giving people too much. I don't know if I'm saying it in the right way, but it's allowing people to be like too confident in themselves as opposed to like knowing what bitachon is or not. And I can say for myself that the amount of times that I believed that I was holding when in all reality, I was just feeding an ego inside myself, believing in something that was just me trying to create a reality for myself and projecting it onto Hashem is just mind-blowing.
Right.
And the word we have for it is bitachon bypassing. We don't like to bitachon bypass, and we're starting this terminology because it's very important what you're saying, and I can't wait to go down this with you, because we tend to do it in all aspects of our life. Why would it change with bitachon when it's the most powerful tool?
Right. It's funny. Rabbi Cohen stresses a lot that like even with bitachon itself, it shouldn't turn to you having bitachon in your bitachon.
Exactly.
Right? Meaning you shouldn't trust that your trust is going to get you what you want. You should trust that Hashem's chesed will give you what you want. Not, I'm going to trust so much that I'm going to get it. That's not where your trust is. Your trust is Hashem is so kind, He's going to give it to me.
Yeah.
So it's a similar idea. It could get confused. A similar act could have various motivations. So an act of bitachon could look like an act of ego. It could look like an act of irresponsibility. It could look like an act of, which I guess is really the ego thing, which is like trusting your own bitachon. So it definitely gets nuanced. But that's why I want to highlight that in this trust fall thing, the bitachon part is the not being scared. Now, let's say you never did a trust fall before. Even if I know, and let's say also that the way we're doing a trust fall is we're doing it proper. You're not catching me right when I start leaning. You're catching me at the bottom, right? You're catching me like 2 inches away from the floor. I stop moving. Even if I know that you're strong and that you're able and that you're willing, I'm pretty sure the average person is still going to be somewhat hesitant when their head is 1 foot away from the cement.
A perfect analogy for that is by the way, I didn't forget about the Chazon Ish. We have to go back
We're
there.
going to go.
But I'm letting everyone know, so we're going back there.
We're getting there. We got you.
Actually what you're saying, just to give it an analogy, I've not skydiving. What's the other one? When you do when you jump off bungee jumping. I've done skydiving. I've done bungee jumping. Bungee jumping was the most scariest thing by far I've ever experienced. But I had 100% confidence that the bungee jumping cord is not going to rip. I had 100% confidence in the staff. I had 100% confidence in everything around me. It took me 10 minutes to actually make the jump, and I had to have a little guy push me, and I held up a line of about 50 people behind me that were chanting my name to get me to do it, and I had all of that around me, and I still couldn't jump. And so the confidence is there, the trust is there, the understanding is there.
And even when you did jump, you weren't able to like think over a business deal.
No, all I was focusing on was like, whoa.
Am I going to die? Am I going to die? It's the only thing you're focusing. You weren't like jumping down. You're like, all right, I don't know if that's a good investment. I don't know. We might lose out.
No, I was completely like one track minded.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
so even if you have the components, and that's the reason why I love the trust fall, because this brings it out so well. Even if you have the components, it doesn't mean that you know how to exercise the muscle of trust. And that's the avoda of bitachon. The avoda of bitachon is the exercise.
It's to learn to jump with all of that.
It's to learn to jump, but it's not even to learn to jump, because you could learn to jump. Someone could jump without a cord because he wants to die.
No, what you're saying,
to learn to jump without being scared. It's learn to jump and think through a business deal. You're falling down. That. You're falling down. You're like, I don't know. I think I might make sense. I don't know. You know, you're like, it's crazy.
When I was there, I kept on asking the guys in charge, "You just do this all day?" And they look at me and they're like, "Yeah." And to prove it, he just jumped. And then he came back up and he goes, "This is what I do all day." And I was sitting there and I was like, what do you, I can't do that again. I'm never going to do that again. And I think it's so deep now for me. What I'm realizing is what you're saying. There's exercising the act of creating the reality of trust, but then there's exercising the action that comes with understanding that trust, which is a muscle in itself of just actually learning to jump and trust. And I think that until now, I don't think I've ever realized that or ever understood how to separate the two. But I think now in this conversation, recognizing that it's actually two components is actually very eye-opening, because if I'm in a business deal and I feel that I have all the bitachon in me to be able to execute this deal, but I actually am too scared of pulling the trigger, I have the bitachon in the knowledgeable sense and on a physiological sense, but the actual act of jumping off the bridge with the bungee cord is just something I haven't practiced, and that's what I need to focus on. And then I don't have to have guilt, shame, and hardship within myself towards the fact that I've done this whole build-up everywhere else. And like, no, you did the work there. There's also work here. And I think that it's a crazy shift in understanding.
You have the soil, right. And it's very important to separate that. And it's like, that's Emunah and Bitachon, the way the Chazon Ish puts it, not to get back to the Chazon Ish yet, but the way the Chazon Ish puts it, he says that Emunah, by the way, underrated. Side tangent. I grew up thinking that the Chazon Ish is this like scary, machmir, Bnei Brak from 100 years ago, terrifying monster that's just coming to make everything usser. And in the recent years, I've learned a lot of the Chazon Ish's stuff, his Emunah and Bitachon, which also continues, and he has a bunch of other stuff, Musar v'Halacha, and he goes through a lot of
It's very
stuff.
poetic the way he writes.
He is so cool. The Chazon Ish is so awesome. He's so cool, and he's so slick, and he writes gorgeously.
Yeah.
He writes so gorgeous. I one of the things that I like, it's kind of like a hobby. I do it a little bit. I make like sometimes on the side I'll do like little jobs, but I write a lot. I write a lot of songs, and I'm very into lyrics. I'm very, very into the lyrics, and it's funny because a lot of people like won't like some of my songs because like they're too lyricky, and I hear that. I totally hear that.
It's their approach.
But I'm into I like lyrics. Like it's almost more like sung poetry, or like sung rap. As like someone who tries to write things in a cool way, the Chazon Ish is like the king. Like if he was just like, it's just a crazy thing to say, but like I randomly thought that like he would write the craziest songs. Like this guy, he writes so well.
Yeah.
So side point, the Chazon Ish. Thank you, and I love the Chazon Ish. He's so good. He's been such a life-changing maramakom for me, such a life-changing sefer.
So then let's go there.
But okay, so let's go there. But before we finish that, I wanted the trustful thing. I want to separate even more. It's not even the act of falling. It's the exercise of when you fall to not be scared. And let's get into this for a second. Let's say for the first time, my 6-year-old daughter, I tell her to fall. And let's say me and my wife convince her to trust me and she does it. And I don't catch her till the end. She's going to be terrified.
For a split second.
She's going to be terrified on the way down.
Yeah.
I'm talking about on the way down. What I mean by on the way down,
relaxed.
I mean in between when you lose balance because you went too far and when you get caught. Very, very short moment.
It's that third of a second. But that third of a second is, yeah.
That. Okay, so she does it once, I catch her. And we laugh, and me and my wife, and it's cute, and it's fun. Okay, fine. Okay, let's continue doing what we're doing. And then a day later, I do it again. And then a day later, I do it again. And then a day later, I do it again. If I do it with her after a year, the first day we did it, she did the act. She fell. A year later, she'll do it again, and she'll do the act, and she'll fall. But how she'll feel on her way down a year later
very different.
Will be very different because she learned how to exercise. I know he's going to catch me, and I'm going to learn how to feel it. That is the trust. That's the exercise of trust.
How you gave it like a place.
It's the getting rid of the concern and the doubt and the fear in it.
It's very practical, everything we're saying here, which I think is good because a lot of the times every conversation, a lot of conversations when it comes to specifically bitachon gets lost in very abstract places because people don't know how to ground it, including myself. A lot of times I don't know how to ground it, which is also lack of understanding. That's why it's hard to ground because it's still things that are formulating, so things can get fluffy, as opposed to knowing and just putting it down. And no, it's just that. I was going to say NB, but there's no NB. But what I'm realizing, which I appreciate over here, is the way we just took the whole bitachon and we summed it into actually one point in the entire conversation between us and God, or action, whatever we want to do. It's one place. It's that place where fear kicks in and trust needs to kick in as well in order to remove that fear. In that moment, whether it's a business deal that's taking months, a lawsuit that's happening, someone is sick, or whatever it is, or even your daughter falling backwards for that split, it's that split second or that parsha in your life.
Or that day or that month.
Exactly. Right. That is the place where the work is supposed to revolve around, which means learning how to react towards that and giving yourself the right tools, which we could talk about for a second, what that looks like. Now, I think that really the tool is repetition, because when you see it happening once and things work out, as hard as it was, it's easier to get there a second time and a third time. Like your daughter falling back is not thinking, how do I learn to trust my father again? The first time that it happened, is when they learn to trust their father the second time, and now it's about learning to get over learned behavior. And I can tell you with
By the way,
Bitachon,
even the first time,
yeah,
it's based on some level of experience that she has with me. If I was a stranger, she would never even do it the first time.
Yeah, but no one gets
Right.
into Bitachon without having some sort of a foundation of understanding that Hashem is really in control of our lives. So that's why I didn't even go there,
And
because
kind.
yeah. So
and generous,
100%.
and good, and wise. He's smarter than you.
But I learned this on Emunah.
Sorry.
I learned this from Emunah, which led to the Bitachon, but then you have to relearn it again through Bitachon.
But that's the thing with Emunah and Bitachon, and that was the beautiful phrase of the Chazon Ish. I really, really, really love learning his stuff. I really love it. It's so poetic. It's so beautiful, and I learn it again and again and again until it makes sense. Like the Chazon Ish and Emunah and Bitachon, I learned it so many times. But and not just because I wanted to know it, also just because I loved it. It was just so beautiful. It was so beautiful. And each time I read it, I'm like, oh my God, that's what he's saying. That's what he's saying. But he says, like, just to conclude this Emunah and Bitachon connecting, he says that Emunah is like the halacha and Bitachon is like the lamaisa. There's the topic, and then there's the action, right? There's a business, then there's showing up to work, right? There's the halacha, there's lamaisa. I know that when you wake up, you're supposed to wash my hands, and then there's me going and washing my hands. And he says that the emunah, I think he says hamabat haklali shel hama'amin. Emunah is the general outlook of the person believing, that they generally see, and their outlook is that Hashem is real and Hashem is in control. And bitachon is hamabat shel hama'amin al atzmo. It's the way you are able to bring that into yourself, and you see yourself as part of that. And now your own experiences are within your perspective. It's all Hashem. To be able to connect your experience of life, to really connect your experience of life to that which you know. And that's and by the way, I just want to also say, like, we're sitting here having a conversation. I feel like the biggest hypocrite in the world. Like this is a crazy topic. Like, even the whole idea of going out there and spreading Bitachon, I felt very hypocritical. And I actually want to get on the hypocrisy topic more with you, because I'm also curious to hear your take on it. But so I just want to say, like, this is a ridiculously hypocritical conversation. Like, I'm just trying to live my life and, like, be a decent Jew and trying to trust. I do think I got lucky. Hashem put me in circumstances that I had the opportunity to really learn a lot. So I think that it's okay for me to hypocritically teach Bitachon. But I do want to, like, make it clear, like, it's lifelong work. It's a lifelong journey.
100%.
It's so difficult, and it depends on the situation. It depends on your personality. If you're a more naturally chilled person, it's going to be a little easier for you. And if you're a very, very, very anxious person, then it's very legitimately going to be extremely difficult, and that makes it very valuable. And also the return might be worth it, right? Like the ROI, might be worth it even more. Because, living irresponsibly without God, at least I'm not always anxious.
Yeah.
Like, if you're living with constant anxiety, and it's so hard, and it's so common, and there's so much hardship and stuff that's going on out there. So I just want to clarify, like, we're talking about these musagim, and me being here, I'm trying to make some sense of all the sources that I've spent years at this point learning and trying to put it together, and then got hired and teamed up, and hired is a big word. I wouldn't really call it hired, but I teamed up with these people to really, really promote it. So I'm in a position where I made some sense out of the words, but in terms of living it, it's so difficult, it's so long, it's so valuable. But what I will say, and this I feel like I could say not hypocritically, is that me, you, and many, many, many people that I know, the people that did go for it, Hashem responded, and Hashem made. How their life is going exactly, I don't know, but Hashem made them aware of, like, I get it that you're trusting me, and I'm showing you that, like,
it works.
I'm doing stuff. Like, you're in my house.
Yeah.
And so I would say, like, even it's intimidating, it's crazy, it's a big thing, but try to bring it in. Like, even on a very small level, like, try to go about your day and be like, yo, God is real. He's real. He's actually real. It's not a joke. Like, he's actually, if you really struggle with that and the whole emunah, and you don't know why we believe in the God that we believe in, that's beyond the scope of this conversation. But then go look into it. Go learn the Kuzari. Go learn the Chavos Avos. Go learn the Derech Hashem. Go look into it. We have Har Sinai, and we have
Derech
the history.
Hashem is one of my favorite svarim ever, and it addresses all of these things. Kuzari also,
It's
but
awesome.
like, Derech Hashem, oh my gosh. I'm sorry, I just had to take a moment
No,
because
dude.
that was a sefer that changed my life forever. Like mamash changed my life.
Derech Hashem is awesome. How did it change your life?
The first chapter changed my life. Everything else is great, but it was when you grow up in a frum society and system, you take everything for granted. Now, I'm not saying this to bash. I'm just saying that if you have an arm, have you thought about having an arm? No, you have an arm. But then you're like, wait a second, people don't have arms. Or why did Hashem give me an arm? It's like, whoa, thank you for that arm. And even then, you're still not so like into the arm because you still take it for granted. The same comes with our understanding of Hashem in at least for me, from where I came from. As much as my teenage years were had its like ups and downs or whatever it was, I had the image of
At least you never got
Hashem.
stabbed in the neck.
Oh, that happened.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah.
I can tell you that I had the image of Hashem from school, which is there's an old man in the sky with a beard and a cane and long white hair,
Ready to kill you.
ready to kill you. And that was my image of God, where if you don't wake up on time for davening, that's it. You just lost $1,000 from whatever you're supposed to make. If you didn't make a bracha with kavana or a bracha at all, there goes 5 years off your life. And this isn't something I got from home. My parents are amazing people. This is what I got from the school system. America, Israel, this was my experience. And I remember I was sitting at the Kotel. I was lucky enough. I opened up the Derech Hashem at the Kotel for the first time in my life. And I was looking at the pages, and it goes into the 7 understandings we need to have of Hashem before we could even have a relationship with Hashem. You need to know that He loves you, that He's there for you, that He's fully involved in everything. And I remember reading this, and I'm looking at the Kotel, and I'm looking up at the sky, and I'm just like, what? What am I reading? 1 second. And I read it again and again and again. And till today, I have
The 7 qualities of the Chovos HaLevavos?
Not the Chovos, 5. It's 5? No, it was the 5. In the Derech Hashem, in the beginning chapter, there's the understanding of who Hashem is before you can relate to Him.
And that He's loving and that He's kind.
Exactly.
Okay, very similar to the.
It's
to the
exactly.
7
That's why I also love the 7 qualities.
By the way, the 7 qualities is the most, I think, underrated, needs to be blasted, but not blasted as a list. Blasted as a bunch of real
100%.
concepts. Yeah.
So for me, when I read it, it was in those moments, it was like, I suddenly saw the guy, I remember looking up and seeing the image I had of Hashem looking down at me, because I used to look up and see this man with a staff, and I remember seeing it smile. In my mind, like I'm looking up, I'm seeing him smile, and then like walks out of the frame, and that was it. And since then, it's been
What
gone.
a moment.
It was crazy. This is why the Sefer has like the Derech Hashem really started.
No one's ever taking the Derech Hashem.
Yeah,
no.
it was crazy. So for me, that's what led it, and that would be the sources on which I was able to understand Emunah better, Hashem better, which eventually led me to Bitachon, which led me to, and literally led me to here. So like I would say Derech Hashem was like the first Sefer that I opened up that allowed this process today that we're doing to actually happen. I have tremendous love for the Sefer.
So honestly, I'm so happy that you're saying that. A, because the Derech Hashem, I mean, it's the Ramchal. like it's the Ramchal. Like he's
the Ramchal.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything. He's the Ramchal. Like I'm not even gonna shout out him. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't even bring myself to do it. But the Ramchal is the Ramchal. But the reason why I'm so happy to hear this is because I think that this is really I think you're touching on a topic that I recently was able to like pinpoint. And doing all this Bitachon studying, which by the way, sometimes also it's funny because like everyone's like, oh, you're learning about Bitachon, you must be so Bitachon. It's like, no, you could learn a lot about Bitachon and not feel it.
100%.
Like it's like
1,000%.
I could spend weeks like really learning. But by the way, sometimes I'm very, 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 very grateful for the opportunity to team up and do this Bitachon thing, and it's been life changing for me, and I love it, and the way it came about, and my relationship with Hashem, and it's been a huge blessing. Shout out to the 2 people I'm working with. I don't know if they want me to mention their names, so I'm not.
So the idea,
but shout out. I really am grateful to be working with you guys. But you could be learning a lot about it and not. Yeah, but also you could be learning it and getting very into it.
Yeah.
And a lot of what I'm trying to do is trying to pinpoint things, like, because there's so much that's like not defined and like not clear. Like for example, like the trust in the trustful, like where the trust is the feeling. It's not the act. Like that's a separation that's hard to pinpoint, especially in a million different topics.
Yeah.
And one of the really fundamental moments, one of the really fundamental ideas that I recently came to realize is that most of the confusion of emuna, bitachon, and maybe even Yiddishkeit lives in the world of Hashem's character. Like once I separate it into there's the Hashem's control, there's the character, there's how you're going to feel at the end, and there's the process of getting there. The character part is the very, very, very scary part. That's where a lot of the confusion exists. Are you going to get what you want or you're not? That all depends on the character, the relationship, how he operates. Tshuva, that depends on the character. Is he going to respond to tefillah? That depends on the character.
Yeah.
What about if you have sins and he's going to punish you? This is all part of the character. This is all part of the character. That's the element which is very, very, very packed and very, very, very packed. A lot of nuanced, massive topics, massive topics. And I think that that's also the element that a lot of people struggle with the most. I think a lot of people have an easier time clearly saying that they believe that Hashem runs the world than believing that they're confident in any character of Hashem. Like, I don't know, we don't know Hashem. Like, we stay away. Like, we don't know.
Also, because it's very hard if you're saying that, because then you have to also address a lot of the pain that's happening. Not that I'm saying we should go down that route or not, but I think that where people are struggling to, from at least my experience within myself, where I struggled with bitachon within my journey is when the pain was so unbearable. But I will say, when the pain was most unbearable is when I was finally able to experience bitachon again.
Right, it pushes you to your limit.
And I'm not saying this to justify or tell anybody that there's a reason for pain. I'm not going down that route because I don't know, and I can't emphasize enough how much I don't know. We all go through hardships. I go through hardships. You go through hardships. And everybody listening goes through hardships. And everyone not listening goes through hardships. But what I do know is that where I, like you were saying before, which I think is very powerful about saying like, you feeling like a hypocrite almost. I would change the words to, I feel like I have imposter syndrome more, where like I'm saying something, but then sometimes it doesn't feel like it. I am that guy, and it's like a little bit of like a dissonance, but I am. And then I could do a podcast, but then I'm struggling within my own framework.
Right. On my way home, I'm gonna be all stressed out. But what happened? It didn't come through. Yeah.
But within that, what I've realized is it's exactly that. It's all within a spectrum. And because it's not something that, I'm not making a podcast of a guy who sells water bottles and I have water bottles to show myself. I'm a guy that is so passionate about the topic of bitachon because of how I've seen it's affected my life through the ups and downs, which exist and still exist, that I just feel the need for other people to also be on this train because this is the train. And that's like for me where I connect all of it, because like you said, we could talk about bitachon till we're blue in the face, but then we still have to deal with those stuff in our lives that aren't going away.
By the way, crazy hashgacha, on the way here. Okay, now just to set the context, I'm coming as, kind of branding myself as the bitchubo. I have a whole bitachon initiative on the way to do a podcast teaching bitachon about topics that I've been studying for a while. And on the car ride, I was on the phone and I knew that I was low on gas. I didn't know how low I was on gas, but I knew that I was low on gas. But also usually like on the highway, it goes longer. It's like you get like, it says a mile, but really it's like three. And all of a sudden I get off the exit and I see, and I don't remember which road I was on, but I see that like I'm on like a real highway, like doesn't have gas stations everywhere. And I see that I'm on zero. And I'm like, okay. In that moment, my heart dropped. Why is that funny? Because I'm in the context of like bitachon. I'm in a podcast of bitachon. I'm him, right? I'm him. And then my guess, what's the worst case scenario? You know what the worst case scenario is?
Chaverim.
I get stopped on the side. Exactly. I stop on the side, and let's say Chaverim isn't around. Worst case, I call you, I say, I'm sorry, I got stuck. I get myself an Uber, I go to a gas station, I fill up a canister, and I get an Uber back to my car, and I spend $100, and I get the gas for my car, and I go about my way, and either we come and do it later, or I go back home.
Yeah.
There's nothing very intense on the line.
Nothing
very intense. Yet, with all of this context, I see zero. My heart's like, and then I thought to myself, and I'm like, by the way, I was on the phone talking about some ideas about bitachon, because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have a conversation. Like, let me flesh out some things. Like, I'm trying to like clarify. So I'm on the phone having a conversation about bitachon, identifying as this bitachon brand guy, on a way to a podcast about bitachon, face a situation where the consequence is so minimal, and my heart dropped. So it's just, I found that to be ironic.
That's
and I
hilarious.
found it to be Hashem giving me like a little like, come on, man.
But I think this is
you're
what
not him.
humanizes it. I think it's so important to hear this because a lot of people, like you were saying, go, oh, you're Mr. Bitachon guy, help us, this, that. Bro, no one's above God.
No.
God is the only one who's like chilling.
No.
Everyone has their ups and downs. By the way, we have to go back for a second. The Chazon Ish and not the Chazon Ish, so we don't forget.
Chazon Ish, we're gonna do the Chazon Ish. I thought that was a hilarious moment. By the way, then you know what I did? I did the Chazon Ish's trick.
Which is?
I did Chazon Ish's trick. The Chazon Ish's trick would just bring it down. I said, you know what? I don't know. Maybe I'll get stuck. Maybe it'll be like a really annoying afternoon. Fine. Maybe not. Maybe I'll make it. It's 8 miles. By the way, I quickly on Google Maps, I'm like putting gas stations like at a stop. And I'm like hoping that there's going to be 1.2 miles away. The closest one is like 8.7 miles away. And I'm like, I'm on 0. I'm middle of a highway over here. I'm like, But I right away told myself, I mentioned to the person I was on the phone with, I was like, this is kind of funny. But then I said, I was like, you know what? Like, if Hashem wants, I'll get stuck. If not, now you could also say you're being irresponsible. You should be looking at your gas mileage that's right in front of you the whole entire drive, and you should take care of it, which is fair enough. But Hashem knows about that. So like, if I'm meant to get stuck, I'm going to get stuck. If I'm not meant to get stuck, I'm not going to get stuck. How this day is meant to go is up to God, and He knows. And I don't know. And maybe it's going to get canceled. Baruch Hashem, I'm here.
I think within your analogy, though, there's one differentiation that's very important to know if you brought God in or not you. But I think for myself, there's a sense of either deflection that happens when we go through these things where instead of processing what's happening, we push it away and say, I'm above it. I'm not accepting it. Ki'ilu, it goes to that place, even though we think we accept it. But in reality, we're like, okay, it's going to be fine. Why? Because we tell it to ourselves because we don't want to face reality. Then there's another place of actually tapping into what's happening and recognizing it, feeling what's going on, and through that experience, allowing ourselves to recognize that, okay, maybe it's not going to work out the way I want. So I'm only saying it because the goal is not to push. Yeah, right. It's not to push it away, and not that you did that. It's the point is to actually walk through the tunnel and not try to go above the tunnel.
And by the way, it even to an extent makes it easier
to go through.
Yeah,
because you have a hand.
Because you have a hand, and because you when you go, and I think in most cases, again, there are certain extreme cases. Certain extreme cases, the bad outcome is pretty bad. Right? It's pretty bad. But even those, and I'm not even going to say this in my own credit, I'm going to say this to your brother's credit. He said that what got him through one of his craziest stages of having cancer and being in Shana Rishona with a 6-month pregnant wife or something.
Yeah.
And like probably dying. I think we could all agree that's like a pretty extreme circumstance, right? Okay.
Yeah.
That's at the end over there. So I'm quoting him, not me. He said that what he did was he took like a couple of days or like a week or whatever it was, and he really like went into that like, okay, maybe I'll die. And it's okay. And it's not okay. But it's okay. Hearing him saying that, I'm getting the chills, happens to be like right now, even just me saying it back. That takes such crazy courage.
To face that.
To face that is such crazy courage. But if you could, then like he's saying, it gave him a sense of comfort. And like, okay, but now I'm alive. And now my life means something. And like, and by the way, on a way more mundane level, I don't know if you're...
I was going to keep it high up there. I wanted to say something. Go.
No, go.
I'll say it after. No. Take it down first. I'll say it after.
John Jones,
okay,
who was a UFC fighter.
Yeah, of course.
Not way different situation, and not even bitachon. But I think someone asked him, and like how he faces like because you know these heavyweight UFC fights. I don't know if you ever watched them. You shouldn't. It's horrific. I still don't know who I relate to less: the guy getting beaten up or the guy beating up. Like both of them, I do not understand how they're in there. Like I do not want to get elbowed in the face, and I don't want to elbow you in the face.
I hear that.
Don't want to be any of them. Like both cases are horrible for me. But John Jones, who's like a heavyweight champion, arguably the GOAT of MMA. So I remember I heard once in an interview, and this really struck me. Someone like asked him how he faces these crazy, opponents. Like, you're going against the scariest people in the world, and like this is like a real fight. Like, you might die. Not you, Chas v'shalom, but like the person fighting might die.
Yeah.
Or get very hurt. And like he pretty much says, like, he's like, I just walking in on like worst case scenario, I'm gonna like get whooped, and I'm gonna get beaten up, I'll end up in the hospital, maybe I'll even die. And he says, and I take that on, and I embrace that, and I accept that, and I go in willing. Like, I'm like willing for that to be an option. No bitachon, no anything. But just being able to like clarify and face the worst case scenario already is a sense of relief.
So
now when you add Hashem to it, now it's endless how much relief you could get.
I'll take it to my personal life. So I was stabbed in the army, as we know. I think I've mentioned it on the podcast in the past. So that's why I said as we know, not just as you know.
Okay. I remember that was crazy.
And yeah, when I got stabbed, I went through a lot of therapy to heal and to recover, to deal with PTSD and everything that came along with that. And I remember that when I started my whole journey on healing, it's in a very, very hard, very, very intense place. At least not on the outside, but on the inside, it was very turmoil. I don't know. It was not pleasant. And I used to like get triggered.
By the way, when you say get stabbed in your neck, I just want to clarify for a second. You should really be the one saying this, but I'm going to say this because I was your friend and I remember this story. And when it happened, you don't mean like getting cut next to your neck. You mean a knife going in one side,
6 inches from here
and hitting the other.
Yeah.
And like, if I remember, like, you like turned around stuff.
Yeah, it was whole
crazy.
Yeah,
crazy.
It was
I'm just saying, like, when you're talking, I just want to clarify if there's anyone listening. Yeah, like when you're talking about your story of getting stabbed, you're not talking about you got into like a little bar fight and someone like slashed your neck and it was scary.
No, I was through the neck. It went from here to here.
You should have been dead.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Should have, because Hashem didn't want it, but yeah, should have.
But derech hateva, olam hasheker, it should have been dead.
Yeah, according to the Goyim, I would have been dead.
Dead.
So,
yeah.
I'm joking. But
no, that was crazy. That was insane.
Yeah. But what happened was, through that experience, I developed triggers from like going to the gas station, going to the supermarket, because I was stabbed by an Arab, and these people look like Arabs around me, working in the supermarket, working in the gas station, especially like in Israel. In America, it's less, but that's where it was. And you have guys working in the fruit section with machetes, like cutting the fruits, and it was crazy. And I remember
that's crazy.
One of the components needed in order to face these fears, I don't think I did it right, and I'll tell you what I mean in a second, was I needed to accept death. I used to say, I'm going to go to the supermarket or I'm going to fill up gas. And I go, what's the worst that's going to happen? And I go, I might die. Okay, I understand.
That's crazy.
I might die. And it's crazy in the sense where I went so extreme. Where I think I went wrong was I didn't bring God into it. And I'm not saying this to be hard on myself. I'm actually very proud of the way I went about it, because to go to such a place at such a young age, I was 20, it's not like a normal place for people to go to also at 50. But I got to experience a very hardcore part of myself. But what I was lacking, and which I looked at my brother when he was saying it and I really appreciated, was that he went there with God in the beginning. It was a very godly experience, very scary experience, very not comfortable experience to say the least, but it was a very godly experience, and that's what also helped him through it. By me, it was a very scary experience and daunting experience, because what I did was I went there alone. There was no God. Yeah. It was me acknowledging the fact that I might die, but it wasn't that Hashem is there, he's not there. It was me just recognizing, okay, Seder, death is
facing reality.
But it wasn't even reality, because it was without God.
Right.
It was me facing a reality. The world, alone. And that's why I was saying also, connecting it to what we were saying before, of let's say the driving, when you say it's good, I'm going to go with the Chazon Ish right of just accepting.
Not just accepting.
Not accepting, I'm sorry.
Bringing Hashem into it with the
accepting
possibility.
The reality that whatever may happen is going to be what it is.
But I would say more. Okay, I'm very happy that you just said this.
This is how we segue into the Chazon Ish.
I know, but I'm happy that you just said this, because the Chazon Ish approach, the Chazon Ish doesn't mention anything about acceptance.
Okay.
Which is ironic.
Because everyone says that's his whole shita.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. When I say the Chazon Ish approach, I mean, what he says is, even if you're concerned that it may be the worst, not acceptance, but you're concerned that that may be the case.
Which is lack of bitachon.
Which is a lack, but at least you could still have
not a negative lack. I'm just saying that just recognize
that it's not void of.
Yeah.
Right? Which is a lack of what it's not void of. Even if you're recognizing that possibility, but just to bring in, meaning he's not saying the bitachon part is the acceptance. He's saying if you're at the acceptance part, accept that at least it's from God. That's very different.
So the chiluk that you're saying over here, which most people say, when I say people, I mean many people, when I have the conversation of bitachon with, they tend to say, how do you explain the Chazon Ish? The Chazon Ish sense accept, and reality is what it is. And it sounds like they're just talking about emunah. And I'm saying this because that's what many people around the world have told me. And I don't say that lightly. But in all reality, what you're saying is no. What the Chazon Ish is saying is like everybody else. The only difference, which is for our benefit of what it is that he's saying, is that if you're in a situation in which you're still not able to accept what's happening, and you're still not able to tap into quote unquote bitachon, you could still have bitachon by just within that framework, connecting to Hashem and recognizing Him and connecting to what's happening over there, which actually strengthens the Chazon Ish to be like everyone else and more.
Right, and I'll tell you, and now we'll segue
this
into
is wild.
Now I'll segue into the actual Chazon Ish. And I think that it's so important to say, because I think that in the face of all the controversy around the Chazon Ish, let's call it controversy, even though it's not controversial, but the sad thing that happens is that the gems
of what he's saying,
not diluted, they get completely gone. And
eradicated.
Regardless, this is also very important. Okay, let's break into this before we get too detailed into the Chazon Ish's wording and context. But let's just like the idea. So now we're approaching this idea of, do you get what you want? Do you not get what you want? This is all living in the world of Hashem's character, which, by the way, soon I want to talk to you. I want to get into more like some ideas of the character. But that's in that world of Hashem's character. What everyone agrees with, and this is no two ways about it. This is like Nevi'im, Psukim that are relevant forever. If you don't believe if Har Sinai is true, then these Psukim are true. And if you don't believe in Har Sinai, then go watch a different podcast. Like, no, not really. If you don't believe in Har Sinai, you could reach out to someone competent to help teach you what we believe. And if you're able to, you're welcome to reach out. I could do my best. I've struggled with that, and I've spent years learning about that. But Habotach b'Hashem chesed yisovavenu. V'ani b'chasdecha batachti yagel libi b'shurosecha. Habotach b'Hashem chesed yisovavenu. Ashrei
Ashlecha l'Hashem yoavcha
v'hu yichal kalecha. Right? Ashrei hagever asher yiftach b'Hashem v'Hashem yiftachai. Yihi chasdecha Hashem alenu kasher yichalnu lach. Right? We have Roitza Hashem es Yireav, Kama, es Hamiyachalim lechazdai. Hamiyachalim, those who hope for His chesed. The fact that Hashem responds to chesed and is willing to accept you as a dependent, everyone agrees with. The fact that if you trust in Hashem, it will up your chesed in your life, everyone agrees with. That's not controversial. There's no Chazon Ish versus anyone you want to bring. There's no Chazon Ish, Beis HaLevi, Gra, Rabbeinu Yonah, Meiri, whoever you want to bring into it. That's psukim. This is Tanakh.
Facts
this is
what
it is. This is forever. This is Hashem's promise.
It's the contracts.
Come into my house. I'll take care of you. You go into His house. You might run out of bamba. I have a lot of bamba. I just bought 1,000. I own the factory of bamba. If you like bamba, you want to go into His house, go to His house. I think He does have bamba right now, but He might run out soon. I don't know, do your thing. But Hashem definitely says, I'm allowing you to come in. And by the way, before we get into, we're in the Chazon Ish, by the way.
I know.
We're in the Chazon Ish, but we're just not in it. But we're in it.
No, we're in it in the sense where you gave.
We don't know, but we don't know. But we don't know, but we don't know.
No, but what we are in, which is what I wanted to get into, is recognizing that the Chazon Ish is not just keeping bitachon at a level of emunah. It's that the Chazon Ish agrees with everything else. And he only makes this chiluk, which allows us to have bitachon, even when we don't have bitachon.
He lowers the goalpost.
Yeah, he takes it, instead of us starting here, bitachon, he's like, we start here.
Right.
And people think that the Chazon Ish ends here.
Right.
No, he began here. There's the whole world that he agrees on, and no one disagrees on that.
Right. Right, and that's what I think is very important to emphasize. There are certain truths about bitachon that are just true according to everyone. It's not like someone once when I was having this conversation of could bitachon guarantee 100% your desired outcome? Could it not? And by the way, this person that I was speaking to is a big Talmud Chacham. He's very, very educated. He was not an easy
Not
opponent.
an easy conversation.
No, but I was like, at some point I told him, I was like, I just want you to realize, like, our whole entire disagreement is if we could say that it gets you from 99% to 100%. But the fact that it gets you way up the percentages,
no one disagrees on.
That's not,
and you're not even holding
at
there.
all. Like, that's already case. So it's not, it might not be psukim or chazal. There's rishonim, the way they learn it, that already gets a little bit less. We're less mechuyev. If you have something that the first and only source of it is a meiri, it's not as powerful as something that's straight up a Gemara.
Yeah.
And if you have something that's straight up a Gemara, it's not as powerful as something that's straight up a pasuk. And if you have a pasuk, I don't want to start differentiating between psukim, but there's levels. So we're handling how the Rishonim learn the psukim and the chazals and very nuanced of it. There's 100% to not. But the fact that Hashem tells you, trust me and I will respond and I will give you good and I'll take you in, I'll take you under my care and I'm willing for you to sign me as you'll be my dependent, right? It's like, imagine a teenage, I think this is actually a very good mashal. Imagine a teenage kid finds himself, being homeless and nowhere to live. And he's looking for somewhere to go. And a very, very nice billionaire, very, very sweet, very, very nice, even though I don't know how often you have billionaires that are also very sweet and nice, but
I'm telling you a lot.
It could be.
I've met quite a few.
I just don't know. You met quite a few billionaires?
Mm-hmm. We can go into that conversation.
I would love to go into that conversation because billionaires is less common than people think.
There are a lot of Jews.
People
a lot of Jews.
People think that like $10 million and $1 billion is the same.
No.
10 million and $1 billion is 990 million, 90 million different.
There's also not a lot of them in the world. There's a lot of people with $10 million, but there's a lot less with $1 billion.
Not a lot with that's why I'm surprised that you're saying that you met a lot.
I've met quite a few actually, not like one or two. I met quite a few.
So let's assume that one of them is super, super kind and super, super, super nice. Crazy resourceful. Money is not a cheshbon, right? If you have $1 billion, money is not a cheshbon. And super, super nice, super sweet, super caring, super forgiving, super loving. And this person offers the guy to come live with him. The guy could totally be like, I'm so overwhelmed. I don't even know how to deal with being, homeless. And I'm not even coming to meet him to even see the option because I don't even know how to choose. And I don't even know how to approach it. I'm just going to sit on the park and do drugs. Or the guy could come and see his options and choose him. But the guy's saying, if you choose me, I'll take care of you. If you don't, then I hope you find another dependent. And whatever he has, he has. Hashem tells us, look, I have all the resources. I have all the good character. You want to come into my house? I'm happy to take you on. And I'll be fair.
Yeah.
I'll be fair.
You'll be more than fair.
By the way, before we get into the nuance of whether you're going to get what you want or not, I'm also going to be fair in a broader sense than you know. You're a 16-year-old guy with a very hard life. I know a lot more about the world to help shape you up for long-term success, even if you might get a little annoyed at me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to just give you a bonus if you're not showing up to work and you're at home playing video games and smoking weed.
Yeah.
I'm not. Not because I can't or because I'm not good, because I want you to be something. I don't want you to always be the failure in my shadow.
Yeah.
I want you to be something. But he's saying, come in, I'll take you on. And I'll be, now, obviously, Hashem's level of ability to care for us is way beyond anyone.
Yeah.
But meaning Hashem's giving us the opportunity, come into my house and I'll be your father. You want to go somewhere else, go somewhere else. I'll come check on you. I still love you. I care about you. I miss you.
I'm here.
I would love for you to come back and I'll come check on you. I'll knock on the window and be like, oh, how you doing? But if you come to me, I'm willing to take you. Everyone agrees with this.
Yeah.
Everyone agrees with this. So everyone agrees that Hashem says you come into my world of trusting me, rely on me, I won't disappoint you. And by the way, I think that's a better way of framing it than you'll get what you want. You won't be let down. Your life right now as is. You transition to trusting me, you won't be let down.
Thanks for watching. Follow along for more. If there's any guests or topic that you would like to see on future episodes, please comment below.